The evening sky looked bruised, a blend of purples and dull grays, as if the world had grown tired of holding up its own weight. A cold wind swept through the small town streets, catching at the coat of Daniel Hale, who pushed through the grocery store doors with the distracted air of a man whose mind was miles away. The automatic doors whooshed shut behind him, sealing him in a world of warm lights, frozen foods, and the faint hum of weary shoppers. Daniel wasn't here as the wealthy CEO people saw on magazine covers. Not tonight. Tonight he was just a tired single father trying to pick up ingredients for the one thing his little daughter Lily had asked for: chicken soup, the way mommy used to make it. Those words always hit him like a punch. His late wife, Sarah, had been the heart of their home. Since losing her last year, Daniel had been living in pieces, some large enough to hold together, others always cracking at the edges. He wasn't a perfect father, but he tried. And that counted for something. He rubbed his eyes, shaking off exhaustion, and turned toward the bakery aisle. That was when he heard it. A small, shaky voice. "Sir, excuse me. Can you, please share that?" Daniel turned instinctively. A small boy stood there. Maybe 7 years old. Thin. Rain-soaked. His shoes squished slightly when he shifted his feet, and his hoodie sagged wet against his narrow shoulders. In his hands he held a bag containing a single loaf of bread. A loaf marked with bold red stickers: expired, dispose immediately. The boy wasn't looking at Daniel's expensive coat or leather shoes or anything that screamed CEO. He was staring at the fresh, warm loaf of bread Daniel had just picked up. "My mommy, she hasn't eaten," the boy whispered, voice cracking. "Her stomach makes loud noises. She says she's fine but she's not. I found this behind the store." He lifted the expired loaf slightly, ashamed. "But the worker yelled at me. So, if you could, maybe share a little. Mommy won't take much. Just a little piece." Daniel froze. In his world, expired bread was something his warehouses threw away every night in bulk. But to this child, it was hope. "What's your name?" Daniel asked softly. The boy swallowed. "Evan. And your mother?" "Grace," he whispered. "She's sick. And tired. She told me not to ask anyone anymore because they say we don't belong here." Daniel felt something sharp twist in his chest. Grief. Anger. Recognition. He'd spent nights feeling like he didn't belong in the world after losing Sarah. Nights when Lily cried herself to sleep and he sat in the living room staring at nothing, wondering if he could ever be enough. He understood what silent suffering looked like. He knelt in front of Evan. "Where is your mother now?" Evan hesitated. "Behind the store. She didn't want to go inside." "People stare." "Show me," Daniel said. The boy's eyes widened. "Really? Really?" They walked out together. Rain had weakened to a mist. Behind the store, near the dumpsters and broken pallets, sat a woman curled under a torn umbrella, shivering. Her coat was thin, her face pale, eyes shadowed with exhaustion. She tried to sit straighter when she saw them approaching. "Mommy, I asked him," Evan said. "He wants to help." Grace quickly stood, wobbling slightly. "Sir, I'm sorry. Evan shouldn't bother people. We'll leave." "You're not bothering anyone," Daniel said gently. "You look freezing." He removed his jacket without hesitation and placed it around her shoulders. She tried to protest, but her fingers trembled too much. Evan beamed. "It's warm, Mommy." Grace closed her eyes, holding back tears. "Sir, we don't need much. Just a little food for him. I can go without." Those words, "I can go without," hit Daniel like lightning. How many times had he said the same thing to his own daughter? How many dinners had he skipped because grief felt heavier than hunger? He inhaled shakily. "How long since you both ate properly?" Grace swallowed. 2 days. 2 days. His jaw tightened. "Come with me," he said. They followed him into the store. Inside, Daniel filled a cart, then another, with fresh produce, warm chicken, milk, bread, fruit. Grace kept trying to put things back. "We don't need this. It's okay. It's too much." "It isn't. But, let me help," Daniel said, his voice barely above a whisper. At the counter, the cashier stared judgmentally. "All this, for them?" she asked bluntly. "Yes," Daniel said calmly. "And I'll be paying for their next 2 weeks of groceries." The cashier rolled her eyes, until she recognized who he was. "Mr. Hale, I didn't realize." "You shouldn't need to," he said simply. "Treat people with kindness, not recognition." Outside, Daniel helped them into his SUV. Grace hesitated, gripping the seat. "Why are you helping us?" she whispered. He looked out into the rain-streaked parking lot, his heart pounding with old pain. "Because the night my wife died, I needed help. And nobody stopped for me." His voice cracked. "I won't make that mistake again." Grace's eyes filled. She nodded slowly. The apartment they lived in was heartbreaking. A single room, mold on the walls, blankets on the floor, a broken heater, a leaking sink, stacks of unopened overdue notices, rent, electricity, medical bills. Evan opened strawberries and fed one to his mother. "Mommy, eat." Grace took it slowly, as if savoring more than just the taste, savoring care. Daniel swallowed hard. "You need help," he said gently. Grace nodded, ashamed. "I lost my job. I got weak. I tried to keep up. But everything fell apart." Daniel sat beside her. "I run a company that distributes food. We need people who care about others. We need voices like yours. If you want a job, I'll give you one." She stared at him, stunned. "Sir, I have nothing to give." "You have a good heart," Daniel said. "That's enough." Her tears fell freely. Over the next few weeks, everything began to shift. Daniel arranged medical care for Grace. A new apartment. Clothing for interviews. Evan began eating full meals. He started smiling again, real smiles, not the tired ones children wear when they grow up too fast. Grace entered her new job nervously. But she quickly became the heart of the department, gentle, attentive, empathetic. Employees gravitated toward her warmth. Daniel visited often, pretending it was business. But everyone saw the truth. He trusted her, respected her, and perhaps needed her in ways that had nothing to do with work. Meanwhile, Evan and Lily grew inseparable. They played together, talked like old friends, laughed until their sides hurt. Lily began smiling again, something Daniel hadn't seen regularly since Sarah died. One day at the company picnic, Evan tugged Daniel's sleeve. "Mr. Daniel," he asked shyly, "can I call you, Uncle?" The word punched right into Daniel's heart. He knelt. "I'd be honored." Grace watched with warm eyes. Eyes that no longer held fear or shame, only gratitude. Later that evening, Grace approached Daniel as the children played under the sunset. "You saved us," she said softly. Daniel shook his head. "You were drowning. I just reached out." She stepped closer. "You didn't have to. I wanted to," he admitted. A soft smile pulled at her lips, the kind born not from romance but from healing. But over the next months, something deeper formed. Not rushed, not forced, something slow and gentle. Two people stitched together by loss found comfort in shared conversations, late night check-ins, school events, small dinners, laughter. Grace learned about Daniel's grief. Daniel learned about Grace's strength. One night, Daniel was tucking Lily into bed when she asked softly, "Daddy, do you think Mommy sent Grace to us? Because she knew we were lonely." Daniel swallowed the knot in his throat. "Maybe," he whispered. Lily nodded confidently, childlike faith shining in her eyes. "I think Mommy picked her." And Daniel, for the first time since losing Sarah, allowed himself to believe in goodness again. Months passed. Life wove a new rhythm. A better one. Grace visited Daniel's home often now, not out of need, but out of belonging. She helped Lily with homework. Daniel cooked dinner for Evan. The four of them slowly formed something fragile, something hopeful, something that felt astonishingly like a family. There was no grand confession. No dramatic moment. Just small acts of care that built into something undeniable. One snow-dusted morning, as they all sat around a breakfast table Daniel once thought would always feel empty, Evan looked at Daniel and said, "Mommy laughs more when you're here." Grace nearly dropped her mug, cheeks warming. But Daniel only smiled. Because he understood. Sometimes families aren't born. Sometimes they are found. Sometimes they grow from broken pieces. Sometimes they begin with a child asking, "Can you share expired bread?" And sometimes, that tiny question becomes the miracle that brings four lonely souls together. Ending message. Kindness doesn't need permission. It doesn't need timing. It doesn't need wealth. It only needs a heart willing to notice someone's pain. A simple act, sharing a loaf of bread, changed four lives forever. Because compassion, when given freely, becomes the doorway to healing. And sometimes, it builds a whole new family.